there, and welcome to episode 74 of Killer POV. I'm one of your co-hosts, Rob G. from Icons of Fright. With me, as always, is Rebekah McKendry, because Elric is sipping some beverage.
He's got something in it.
So Rebekah from Fangoria. Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
What is everybody have hot beverages today?
And mine's actually not. This is just the only cups they had. I have grape juice.
Grape juice, okay.
Yeah, it's totally lame. I know. It's
not
what they had out there.
Coming from you.
I know. Well, it wasn't my choice. It's the options we were given in the kitchen tonight.
Okay,
so,
fair enough.
I wasn't feeling the coffee.
Elric Kane,
Thank
Inside
you.
Horror. What are you
have
drinking?
a nice day. A little hint at what we're going to talk about tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Little robots. I'm drinking coffee to stay up.
Hey.
I am tired.
Really?
Just in general.
From what?
Just life is wearing me down.
Weak.
I have one more child than Rebekah has. I have one more business than Rebekah has.
I have
She
two
has
more
one
dogs.
more job.
Weak.
Her dogs are hardly, I don't know, they're cyborg
I
dogs.
sympathize with both of you because
I'm just tired.
I am single and I am not attached and I have no children and I'm always exhausted. I don't know how either of you do it, to be quite honest.
I'm almost never exhausted. That's a funny thing. But this last week and a half, it's just kind of starting to take its toll on me.
Yeah, I usually kind of secrete like a natural meth that in honesty, I have a small candy addiction. I think probably does it, but it keeps me kind of pepped up.
All right.
But I'm going to wake up in a second because I'm very excited to talk B movies.
Oh my God. Yeah, we got a great guest.
We do.
Who is he's our topic. It's like just him.
Yeah.
Yep.
He is worth being, he's topic worthy.
I'd almost call him Prince of the Bees.
I had to print out his IMDb page because I couldn't keep up with everything, and I never do that. So this is kind of like a big thing for me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what has everyone seen? Because let's
just get into
a lot
it.
of films here. So who wants to go first?
You want to go?
I'll jump in. Okay, so this week I watched Day of the Beast because I did an article on it for Shock to You Drop. This is Alex de Iglesias' film from 1995. Never got a DVD release here in States, which is just kind of criminal.
That's weird, yeah.
Absolutely hilarious. I think I've probably mentioned it on the show a couple of times before, but it is a priest who decides that in order to get in better graces with Satan so he can kill the Antichrist, he decides to commit as many sins as possible in the shortest amount of time.
That is so funny because one of the films I saw has almost an identical plot line. So
in this one, he teams up with a TV psychic and a metalhead record shop owner to go defeat the Antichrist. And it's absolutely hilarious. It's one of the most spot-on horror comedies I've ever seen. It's definitely in my top 5 horror comedies ever.
Movie.
And and it never got a DVD release here. And I don't know why. It's just...
So do you have an import?
I do.
Yeah, I know it's out on
I have a
UK.
VHS.
I hope, when's the other movie that...
He's got Witching and Bitching.
Witching and Bitching.
It's already on VOD and it releases to DVD in just a couple of weeks.
I'm
but
surprised
it's
somebody
great.
hasn't picked up his early work yet.
Because Perdita Durango got like a really pithy release here under the name Dance with the Devil.
Right.
Baby's Room got kind of a throwaway release on 6 films to keep you awake or something
Never heard of
like
that one. What's that one about?
I think I may have mentioned that jerk.
He's being a jerk.
Perdita Durango is amazing.
Sarcastic.
I think that's like one of the great movies of, is it the 90s? Like,
It's 90s.
That's one of those films that you just watch and go, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you've seen it unrated. I mean, where I saw it was Perdita Durango. And it's written by Barry Gifford, who wrote Lost Highway with Lynch and also Wild at Heart with Lynch. And it's part of the same world as Wild at Heart.
The character Perdita Durango is actually
Layla and
in
Susan,
Wild at Heart.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Sailor and Lulu is the book. And so he's a novelist.
Oh.
And so it all comes from the world of his books. But I mean, it's a tough movie.
Yeah.
And and the performances, I mean, I still think it's probably Javier's best performance. It's so intense, but it's one of those, it's a real disappointment that film isn't easier to find.
Well, I have a feeling that it was the subject matter because I mean, there's so many rapes in it, and they're hauling truckloads of fetuses, human fetuses that are going to be used for cosmetics. There's just like some weird icky stuff in it.
That gets under America's skin.
Yeah, it's voodoo.
Somebody's skin.
He uses cocaine all the time. Yeah. I mean, there's weird, like aggressive sexual stuff in it, but it's a comedy.
Yeah, I don't understand why those films don't exist because there's not really censorship here. You have a MPAA that gives you a rating and might make it hard to release it, but it doesn't ban it like it does in other countries.
At the time that came out, it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like there's still a video market.
Right.
Yeah.
So they just couldn't get
I think now you can get away with VOD, unrated anything.
Okay.
Or, you know what I mean? Like I think if they tried to release it, somebody's got to snag it eventually.
Yeah. I know
would
that
guess.
like if you're doing like Netflix or Walmart or something like that, you've got crazy restrictions you have to go through. But I mean, it seems like some of the people that, you know, like Vinegar Syndrome or Alamo or one of these guys would have picked this one up.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting. So Day of the Beast, 1995. And also check out his Perdita Durango, which is also also really hard to find, but I will say if you can find it online if you're really trying. I went to the Centipede Horror screening at Cinefamily on Saturday night. How did you guys miss this?
I'm shocked you went. You went to something you weren't hosting at midnight?
I know.
I cannot believe you would do that.
Well, I
don't think you've ever
fan.
done that since I've known you. I mean,
I have. I saw Motel Hell.
No, you had
Exorcist
to see that.
3.
You went to that too. I'm saying when you don't
I wasn't
have
hosting it.
You hosted
the Motel Hell? No, I didn't.
Fangoria did.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, pal.
Midnight screening at Cinefamily. Yeah. That was me and Elise Wax in the second row cheering.
I thought you guys...
No, that was just me as a fan. Exorcist 3 was a midnight show.
I was sure that was a Fangoria.
I do, but no, this one was not. This one was just a regular screening.
You're insane then.
I know. Well, this one, it's like really hard to find. It's Centipede Horror, but it's sometimes also called Centipede Terror. And it's from 1984 out of Japan. And it's kind of, it's one of the more extreme Japanese films. And I always like this one just because it's extreme Japanese, and I always like Japanese cinema. But it's also got, I'm sorry. Let me double check and make sure it is Japanese. It might be Hong Kong. I'll call it Asian cinema just to cover myself for now. But it also combines my love of insects.
Yeah.
And the Asian centipedes are like a foot long and like orange and really scary looking. So it follows like a Shaw Brothers plot where, somebody's getting bewitched by these black magic witch doctors, and it causes people to vomit up centipedes. Mm-hmm. And it's really intense.
What's the real gross out factor? Because I heard people saying it's like a vomit bag movie.
It's vomit.
Okay.
People vomit centipedes, like literally. There is slime and centipedes at midnight. And I had seen it really long ago on VHS, and I haven't seen it since then, and it's damn near impossible to find. So I figured, why the hell not? So
I'm impressed.
Yeah, it was a great screening, and it was a beautiful print. So that kicked ass. And then the next day I watched Romancing the Stone and Jewel of the Nile back to back, which, though it's not horror, I have to say it was like reliving a portion of my childhood and realizing how clunky those films are actually.
I think the first one's awesome.
The first one
second one's clunky, and the second one's directed by Louis Teague, who is a horror director, who's an awesome horror director.
Yeah.
But I always felt the second one was pretty clunky. First one was like one of my first hits of sexuality, was that scene where he falls down the bank and then lands between her legs. It's just like, I was probably 8, I guess, when I saw that. And I was like, whoa, I like this, but what is it?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
I loved that movie when I was a kid, but now rewatching it, I'm going, why the fuck does she fall in love with him? This guy's such an asshole. He keeps stealing her map. He keeps telling her what a horrible person he is. Even at the end, like, she's being like chased by the bad guy, and he's chasing the damn crocodile to get the stone out. And finally, after like 10 minutes, he's like, oh, wait, I guess I should go save her.
Wait, sorry. Did you just say, why would a woman fall in love with an asshole?
Yeah.
Crickets, because I think 90% of the population.
So that was my question for this time. But it was fun to rewatch them. And then
it's weird to think of her as a sex symbol, too, because she's just so gruff now. I met her at a film festival, and her voice was just like so deep now.
Well, watching her on Californication, I think, killed it for me, because that's when she's supposed to just be this hideous sexual beast. Ronco, get over here and blow me.
She's almost become like Nurse Ratched from Cuckoo's Nest or something. She's almost developed into that. It's weird.
And then the last thing that I saw this week was I watched the Morgan Spurlock film, Greatest Movie Ever Sold, which is not horror, but definitely plays a role into horror, because it's all about product placement and companies becoming involved with movies, and how you make like $100 million movie is all through product placement. And so it's actually like looking at movies that do this and how they do it well, and, how it affects the directors involved and the audiences that go to it. And do the directors ever think that they've sold out or anything like that? If Nike comes on and gives them like $6 million to have everybody in the movie wear Nikes, how do the directors feel about it, and how the studios get involved too? So even though it's not horror centric, if you're interested in how the movie industry runs, it's a fascinating look.
And next week that could be relevant, because we are going to be talking a lot about producing, especially indies, and that could be pretty interesting. See how deals are put together.
Yeah,
very practical. Do you want me to do a couple, or you want to roll?
Yeah, go for it.
I only have 2. Still kind of chasing my list of unseen things. This time, luckily, they weren't just on VHS, which I was very thankful for after a couple of weeks of VHS. One is by a director who's going to be here in a few weeks at some point, that you introduced me to, Rodman Flender, who made Idle Hands. He made a film called The Unborn, and the reason I wanted to see this, I might have seen it when I was young, but I remember the cover well. And me and Bekah both probably have this interest, any movies to do with like childbirth,
baby with a blade,
babies, or whatever it is. Yeah. And this one's particularly, kind of crazy and over the top with the actual science. But the first, it's a very strange film. It very much straddles The first half is like trying to fit into things like almost like, Don't Look Now and The Invasions of like a real horror film of that real tone of drama. And then the second half is just like bonkers, almost Corman kind of world. So it kind of makes sense given that he's the director, and I actually think it works for me. It's kind of dealing with in vitro fears, and it's pretty much my favorite screen actress in the genre, which has always been Brooke Adams, and
who has crazy pregnant sex.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of weird stuff that happens in it. But she's just past where she's like, oh my God, it's Brooke Adams. This is like the next movie. Like, this is the 40s. Now, there's nothing wrong with 40s. We're all heading there. But, wow. It's just, she's hasn't quite got the charm. But it's a very strange film. It's walking a really strange line. But man, the last like 10 minutes.
That's when it gets like
the effects are pretty amazing of the crazy
Are you kidding
science.
me?
Yeah, the science is amazing with the big room with the giant like red orbs.
When the fetus is like crawling out, that's when I'm like, oh,
pure gold.
Come on.
Pure gold. No, that kind of stuff. There's scenes where it's kind of like it's alive. It straddles moments of all of those films.
Right.
But I think it's fun. Interesting fact, I did not know about it while I was watching it. Wally Pfister is the DP.
Oh.
Christopher Nolan's DP and now director, which kind of, surprised me. And it's just an interesting film if you're a completist with those kind of movies, which I feel like I've seen almost all of them except Baby's Room. Anything about new parenting or child pregnancy is pretty interesting. And then the second one's actually like kind of a flat out masterpiece that I'd never seen. I'd started reading, I don't know where I got the tip on this, but I started looking up reviews on Letterboxd, and they're all like, oh my God, how did I miss this movie? It's kind of a movie like Turning the Screw. I'm trying to think what else. The Others. It's kind of a period piece. It's all set in a girls' dormitory, a boarding house with this very strict woman. It's called La Residensia, aka The House That Screamed. In America, it's called The House That Screamed.
Oh yeah.
And it's basically 68. It's by the director Serrador, who directed Who Can Kill a Child. And it's I think it was the first Spanish film like that was shot in English.
So it isn't subtitled.
It isn't subtitled. It was in English, and you could tell. But it's gorgeous. I mean, it's like watching one of those masterfully shot movies where you're like, oh wow, how do movies like this slip through the cracks? It's kind of giallo, kind of slasher. I mean, the horror part's only there's a few moments. I wouldn't say it's all that horrific. It builds a really interesting tone, but it's gorgeous. And there's one thing that I would love to, if I could meet Dario right the second, there is a scene that is Suspiria has to have just been totally influenced, especially one moment. There's a girl in the rain outside a giant girls' dorm with a giant blue filter on her, getting wet and looking around. And I was just watching it going, okay, this is like
68.
Yeah, so it's 10 years before. It's really interesting. And I don't know how easy it is to find, because what I was watching was a DVD that had a label that somebody had written on it. I rented this, but clearly it wasn't it was like a DVD -R. It looked great.
I have a DVD. I don't think it's that hard to locate.
I don't know. I get the feeling like it might be. But it was, really gorgeous movie. And kind of The Orphanage, The Others. If you like anything like that, and what is the one that the British, the haunting one with the one of the most famous ones, not The Haunting, the other one with the blonde woman, and is it Turn of the Screw?
What the hell is he talking about?
It's the most famous British. Like if you looked up the British horror right now, it'd be like 1 or 2. It's that film. What the fuck? It'll come to me. We'll have to look it up. It's always like in the top 2, not The Haunting. I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, you got me.
If you like movies like that, I think you'll really dig it. And I thought it was just kind of like magnificent. Let me look. Oh, The Innocents.
The Innocents.
Okay.
Always in the
Criterion's
You're not crazy.
which looks very much like a movie like that, but it's in color, and it's got some weird. It's also kind of a woman in prison film, which makes it kind of fun. It's kind of a little saucy and edgy for saying that's a period piece.
House That Screamed is available from Sinister Cinema. They don't do the best transfers, so I may not encourage that, but it's $9.
Yeah, what I watched, what looked like they had taken like a really high-end VHS. It looked good, and or from TV and had recorded a DVD. It looked good. I had no qualms with it, but it was not a professional DVD.
All right.
So yeah, anyway, I'm on my roll. And next week I will have a Ken Wiederhorn slasher called Eyes of a Stranger that I've never seen.
I think I have that. That might have been part of a box set.
It might have been, yeah. It's one I was looking at on VHS and it looked interesting. It's on my list.
Elvira has a movie macabre double feature with House That Screamed.
Oh, that could be. I wonder what that version looks like. That might be
maybe that's
that
where
one
it
might
came
be
from.
a little bit better because those, at least if it's the E1 releases, they're a little
somebody
bit nicer.
warned me online. There was one comment that said watch for a cut version, and that might be an American cut version. Like La Residencia is the better.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay.
I just got The Fury, which I'm going to be checking out this week.
Fury's great.
Which you guys had recommended me to.
Yeah. Okay, I saw a couple of things. The first one that kind of ties into Day of the Beast for Rebekah. I watched Hellbenders 3D.
Hellbenders,
which is it's the latest movie written and directed by J.T. Petty. I'm a big fan of J.T. He did S&M Man or Sandman and Mimic 3, and he's done quite a couple of
I liked Mimic. The Burrowers was awesome. I absolutely love that one. I wasn't as big into S&M.
I like that movie for different. That'll go into our found footage episode when we get to it, even though it's not one, but it's a unique take on that.
It's an interesting filming style.
I've always liked JT. He's a very intelligent and underrated filmmaker. He kind of comes from that Larry Fessenden school. And it's just ironic because he did this crazy 3D movie for Lionsgate called Hellbenders. Larry Fessenden is the first person you see in 3D in the movie, so I got excited right off the bat. And the other thing
so you're watching it in 3D at home?
I had a 3D. Cool. I got a 3D version of it. And the thing I love about it is, you ever have one of those things where just by mere fate, like I've had it for a while and I just didn't watch it, but I started watching like all this other stuff, and then by fate, I watched this movie and it's got everybody and everything I just watched. So like the leads are Clifton Collins Jr. is the lead guy, Clancy Brown from John Dies at the End. And then I just finished watching The Wire, and one of the guys from that, the guy that plays Bubbles, Andre Arroyo, is in it. And Macon Blair from Blue Ruin, which I just watched 2 weeks ago.
It's like horror kismet.
It's like everybody that I had just seen and stuff is in this movie. And the basic premise, it's a horror comedy, but the basic premise is that Clancy Brown is the leader of this kind of like this coven of priests. They're all in the priesthood, and they all are constantly in sin. They're always sinning and doing terrible things because when they go, there's all sorts of demon activity going on through New York City, that anytime they go to one of these quote unquote exorcisms or to fight a demon, just in case, if it's undefeatable, they have to kill themselves and sacrifice themselves and take the demon to hell personally. So they're always living in a state of sin. So it's kind of hilarious because they're doing horrible things that priests shouldn't do, and the F word is dropped like every 10 seconds. So it's a pretty comical, fun thing. Hilarious seeing Macon Blair, who in Blue Ruin, like, I'm so glad I didn't see anything else with him. Like, I know he's in Murder Party, but I didn't remember it at the time. Because Blue Ruin, I just was able to see him clearly. He's hilarious in this movie. So funny. So I'm like, I guess he's supposed to be a comedy guy.
Why do you think the film didn't get a proper release?
I don't know. Maybe because of the 3D thing. I mean, it was, I got it along with a pair, the other Lionsgate movie was Nurse 3D. And even that didn't get really a legitimate release. That said, the 3D is really good, but you can probably enjoy it regularly anyway. And I don't know, I really liked it. I'm not going to say it was like the greatest thing I've ever seen, but it was really unique and original and different. And I laughed a lot. And in fact, one of the funniest things I've ever seen in any movie is the explanation for why superheroes in comics their alter ego is never named Clint. And it's like an ongoing joke. And when they give you the punchline to it, I laughed out loud because it was freaking hilarious.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind and check out the movie. So I saw Hellbenders. I love that one. I revisited yet again I Come in Peace, but the only reason I'm bringing that is because I have a very funny story about it. I watched it with Darren Bousman because occasionally him and I will do movie nights. He's got a nice little theater set up, and he said it's okay for me to tell the story. So I get to his place, and for some reason, I Come in Peace, the Blu-ray, is not playing on his player. It's coming up like where half the screen is at the bottom and the other half's on the top. And I'd never seen anything like this. Some sort of weird glitch. Mind you, Darren has that, and he has another player that's got like 400 fucking discs in it. It's just like every movie he's ever owned is in this one other player. So he switches to that, puts it on, and as soon as the screen comes on, I'm horrified. On this giant like wall screen, there's like a little old lady naked with two other naked dudes, and it's called Retarditron 3.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And he's like, oh shit. Yeah, Joe Bishara came over to my house for a party and he thought it'd be funny to throw this on. And I'm like, sure he did. And honestly, I was so shocked by what I was looking at. He's like, dude, you have to watch it. It's like Robot Chicken if it was live action. And I was just like, man,
Wait, what's it called again?
I'll show you. He immediately jumped behind me. I don't think I could post this. Maybe I'll do a blurred version of it. But that's my reaction to Retarditron 3. You actually can see a little clip on YouTube, which he immediately sent me the day after. And yeah, I never need to see it. As I told him, I was like,
hairy.
Yes, I was like, listen, man, I'm older. I've seen a lot of fucked up shit. I'm good. There's nothing more. But that said, Shed 'Em I Come in Peace, the Dolph Lundgren movie that Shout Factory put out, and the only reason I want to bring it up again is because not only do I still think it's one of his best movies and one of his best performances, but I did a little research on it. The director, Craig R. Baxley, he comes from a stunt background. He's like a stunt coordinator, and his whole family, his dad, his brothers are all stuntmen. Mm-hmm. He directed Action Jackson, I Come in Peace, and Stone Cold.
Ooh,
I just wanted you to know.
You know how much I love Stone Cold.
Exactly. So I was like, oh my God, this guy was like 3 for 3 with the action movies. And the reason we were so impressed is because revisiting the movie, it's like a $5 to $7 million budget. Yet it looks like it's a $20 million movie. There's just so many explosions. It's all practical, all these great tricks. And then he went on to do a bunch of Stephen King stuff, Storm of the Century, Rose Red, and the one we mentioned the other day, Kingdom Hospital. He directed that U.S. version of it. Huh.
I actually really like Rose Red. Yeah, I tried to watch the prequel and it was kind of bleh, but I love Rose Red.
Yeah, I just got both of those and have never seen them, so I'm going to check those out soon.
Yeah, Rose Red is one I kind of revisit every couple of years, and it's a mini series, so it's like 6 hours long. Right. But it's kind of worth it to watch it in like 2 big chunks, just because it's very cohesive. It does function as like a full thing.
So. What's that new Stephen King movie that's coming out? It's like the about a married couple.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Kind of Lifetimey.
I know The Cell is coming out.
And Gerald's Game, they're just starting
No, something else. It's something coming really soon that he's the writer of.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, again.
The Cell is next because I know some people that just worked on it. So that's in post-production now with John Cusack and Sam Jackson reuniting.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. Huh. So other than that, another one that I've been meaning to watch for a long time, but the cover did me in, and this is why you never judge a book by its cover. Cockneys Vs Zombies, which is fun. It's really fun. It's on Netflix Instant, and Scream Factory put it on. It's a 2012 British horror comedy, kind of in the vein of Shaun of the Dead. Not quite as good as Shaun of the Dead, but it's up there, and it's got like almost like that meets like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Like it's a bunch of British guys in the middle of a heist. They're doing a bank robbery heist to stop their grandfather's old age home from closing down. So it's like, the criminals with a heart of gold, and the zombie apocalypse just happens while they're in the middle of it. And the reason I love it is because it's unlike most zombie movies. They just don't waste any time with anything. Like they go into the bank to do the robbery, and when they come out, like the cops that like had them surrounded, it's like pure pandemonium, and like people are running in the streets and going nuts, and they're like, what the hell's going on? And they're like, oh, zombie invasion. Like there's no like explanation.
That's good.
Like,
they actually cut to the chase for a change.
They're like, oh,
that's cool.
It must have finally happened. So they totally accept it. And I think the first person like that tries to take a zombie out, they're like, shoot him in the head. And they're like, why, how would you know that? He's like, everybody knows that. So I appreciated that they went right to it and didn't waste any time and just went right into their thing. I recommend watching it with the subtitles, which I did, because they have very, very thick British accents. And I found it hard to make out a lot of what they said. But
I met the director to that at a party last weekend.
Oh, really? Oh, he did. I looked him up. It was his name was Matthias Hone. He did that first. He did Beyond the Rave, which was that first Hammer Films' first web series / movie in over whatever it was, a couple decades, which kind of got them back into the groove. Then they did it's the one with the little kid comes back. That
Wakewood.
Was like that was the one after that. But
I liked Wakewood.
I liked Wakewood.
He did their very first one, which is Beyond the Rave.
Yeah, it was kind of, I met him recently at a birthday party. That's awesome.
I found the Stephen King one.
What's that?
It is A Good Marriage. 2014 thriller, and it's based on one of his stories. And I saw a little bit of the trailer, and it looked kind of Lifetimey, so I don't know enough about it. But
have any of you guys been watching Under the Dome?
No, I watched half an episode and just couldn't.
See, I knew
it's
the
parts of
ending.
Stephen King world that I don't like. I like the concept. Concept's awesome, and I think I made a comment about that. What was I watching? I was watching something, an HBO show. Oh, I was watching what's that HBO show that just ended last week with the guy from Mulholland Drive, me and Sean.
I know what you're talking about. Not the in between. No,
the Leftovers.
Leftovers,
which I just watched the whole thing, and those people who didn't watch it all, I understand why they stopped, but it actually really is really strong.
Somebody was trying to convince me that it's horror.
Cash loved it. I think we still don't know what it is because we don't really know where it's headed. It's pretty horrific. Yeah, you could lump it in there, but the performances and the tone are really good. But all I kept thinking is, if this was mixed with Under the Dome and you took the concept of the dome but put these characters in this tone, which is much more realistic than the kind of cartoony Americana of Fox or whoever produced the other show,
right,
I would be like, best show on TV. And that's my problem with it. Now, that said, I haven't watched enough of Under the Dome to know if it could get really good. It's just that at the start, it's all those things about the Americana of Stephen King where I don't like, whereas the Cujo version is what I do like, that world which feels real. We talked about that on that show. But The Leftovers has something going for it. It's very hard to put your finger on, though, because it doesn't give away any of its secrets by the end of the first season. Like, I still could not tell you really if there's anything bigger at play, but the drama of it's really strong.
You know what I'm excited about? October 8th, my birthday, a new American Horror Story freak show.
Right.
And the trailer released this week.
I know. I haven't watched it. Does it look good? It's like a full trailer.
It's got like, why can't I remember her name? Girl from Misery. She's amazing.
Kathy
Bates is the bearded lady.
Holy smokes.
The girl who was the head witch from last time had 2 heads in it. It's just kind of amazing.
Yeah, I got to watch that. And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because, at first I thought like October was looking pretty slim in terms of new horror releases. But also from American Horror Story, the guy who created it, the trailer for The Town That Dreaded Sundown just dropped today.
Amazing.
It looks kind of awesome.
Yeah.
I like that they did a contemporary version. I was worried about that.
There's Fangorias in it. I don't know where they are, but I signed releases, so that apparently Fango
cool.
is in there somewhere.
Well, because what I like about, check out the trailer. It's on YouTube right now, and it's coming out October 16th. But what I dig about it, and this is what I wish they would do with all contemporary remakes. It's a remake sequel.
Yes.
They absolutely acknowledge the original movie and the original, it's based on a true story. So they acknowledge those events, they acknowledge the original movie, and it looks really cool. It looks pretty scary. It's got that American Horror Story vibe to it a little bit, just from the look of it.
Yeah.
But that, and there was a fairly recent new trailer for Annabelle, which I stopped at Joe Bashar's house the other day, and he happened to have one of the real
where
deal.
You were. I was wondering because I saw a picture of you holding Annabelle, and I was like, did he get to go on set?
No, it's just I went to Joe is the composer of The Conjuring and the Insidious movies, and he also played the demon in it. And
he was on the show.
He was on our show.
He was on our show
with our soundtrack episode with Death Waltz. And he happened to have an Annabelle, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, because the sheer irony is that my cousins that got me into horror when I was 12. Are like my cousin Sylvie just posted how terrified she is of The Conjuring, and I'm like, but you ruined me. I don't understand what's the matter with you and your brother. They're like so petrified of horror movies.
That's
so
what
now
my
when
mom
I go
is.
back to New York, it's payback's a bitch. I am forcing them to watch The Conjuring. That's what's going to happen in a couple of months.
I made my mom watch The Conjuring, but yeah, she's the one that when I was a kid would make me watch these like horrific sci-fi movies that scarred me at the time, but then later I loved. Or like I actually just this past week hung up my Something Wicked This Way Comes poster in my house, but she was the one who like way too young was like, oh, you're going to love this movie. Terrified the crap out of me. So now I get to make her watch stuff. It's kind of fun.
Nice.
So.
But so Annabelle comes out October 3rd. That's the other October release.
And who made it?
I don't know exactly who he is, but I mean, James Wan produced it, and they picked somebody that I think was on the crew for Conjuring. I don't know off the top of my head, but if I know you're avoiding trailers, but they just did a pretty lengthy, like 2.5 minute trailer. It looks really scary, and it looks really, really good. So
I did see some trailers. They weren't horror related before. I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, which was as good as everyone's.
Oh, you did get to see it.
It's just totally enjoyment, pure enjoyment, cinematic fun. But what I did notice before is all the trailers that were like for kids films. Just made me unequivocally realize that no one makes kids films for kids anymore, and it was kind of heartbreaking because it got to Annie. And I'm just like, there's not a child on earth who would enjoy that vision of that film that you are putting out there. And there's not an adult on earth who will probably think it's good either. Right. And there's definitely not a critic on earth who's going to think that's a good movie. So I don't know
who
the hell.
Is this, Annie?
Annie remake with
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx as the bald guy, as
Daddy Warbucks.
Daddy Warbucks, and it just looks so. Half of it looked like it was about politics.
Yeah,
and you're just like, sorry guys, like, and all the other trailers started meshing together. I was like, you know what? Yeah, Guardians has both. You know, it captures
Heart
the
and
wonder
soul.
for an adult, but also if you're not too young, it'd be over your head. But like 10, you'd love it. It's a bummer because I think you have to aim for the child to get the adult. You know, and it's just they're getting too clever and too adulty in kids' films. It's a shame. You know, it's I think back to things like Time Bandits, which I loved as a kid, or Black Hole. Yeah, these aren't movies that they would make anymore.
Yeah, Black Hole scared me.
Yeah, Black Hole was
loved it, but it had a weird dark vibe to it.
That's like, oh, cool. Which is so it's that's any others.
Well, really quickly, I don't need to get into them because we've talked on the show before, but I thought it might be fun to open discussion with our audience. Sean Keller decided to start his Halloween marathons early, and he invited me and a few people over, and we watched Return of the Living Dead and Night of the Comet as a double bill.
Ooh.
And then they also continue with The Lost Boys. And I was like,
Kelly Maroney will be mentioned tonight.
Obviously, yes, very much so.
Star of one of the movies we'll be discussing today.
But no, I'd never seen Night of the Comet, and this was my first time seeing it.
I've never seen that. Wow.
Because when you're younger, you mix up so many different movies.
I see that all the time.
As we were watching, I was like, you know what? I don't know this one. But I loved it. It's a lot of fun. I loved Return of the Living Dead. And that's the thing is now that the Halloween season is coming out, would love to hear what other people think are the right films to kick off with. So
Night of the Comet, it's quite a beautifully shot film too. You know, it's just, it looks great. I don't know.
Los Angeles has never looked that good. And no one can shoot like exteriors in Los Angeles like that anymore without, I
tried looking up the director. I think he made one other thing, but I don't know where he lives now. I'd love to meet that guy. Yeah. He had an interesting name like Thor or something.
Let's hunt Thor down.
Yeah, we'll hunt Thor down. Well, we're going to talk to the prince of the B movies. If Corman's king, then this guy is probably, I can't think of anyone,
All right.
it's going to be interesting.
Sounds good.
Thank you, and have a nice day. Okay, we are being joined by a circus of folk here now.
Circus of horrors.
Circus of horror. I'll just start with Jim Wynorski and introduce you, but you might want to introduce your clan.
I will introduce the clan that I brought. I never travel alone. I always travel with an entourage. And with me is the lovely and talented and ever so busty Cindy Lucas.
Good evening.
And we'll put photos up.
And who has appeared in Piranaconda. She's appeared in Sexy Wives Syndrome, Sexy Wives Sensations. She is also in Shark and Saw Women's Prison Massacre.
Which is the next film that
which is coming up. It's the next release.
And we also have one of the producers of that film.
Yes, we have. Not one of them, the
sole producer. But most of you would probably know him from Werewolf Man versus Piranha Man and Lizard Man.
I'm not familiar with that title.
or going to film school with me.
All that. Oh, that's true.
That's true. This is Steve Goldenberg.
Hello.
Hey, Steve. How you going?
Good. How are you all doing?
Well, we're going to direct our questions largely at Jim.
Okay.
And if you guys feel like chiming in,
feel free to jump in.
Otherwise, it's going to get confusing.
Bekah, Cindy, please remove all your clothes.
Let's pop some tops.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
When did that term, to kick off, when did the term Popatopoulos came? Was that just from the documentary? Or?
No, I stole it.
Oh, really?
I stole it from Fred Olin Ray.
Oh, wow.
He said it on a set, and I said, I'm taking that phrase as my own.
And then your bio was, you got the bio. You stole it from him.
You should sue Pringles. They use it in their ad campaign.
Yeah, but it's not as sexy, right?
No, it's not.
No, it isn't.
So just so everyone listening knows, they did pop their tops, and they are now both topless. In
What can I say?
Lies.
This is now a glorious show.
All hanging out, and everyone
Cindy,
listening owes me $1.
Cindy's got an incredible top, by the way. So does Bekah. So here we are, naked.
We should have brought beer.
I know.
To get through the next.
Well, has everybody in some capacity worked with Jim before? I know Elric has.
That's right, and we're trying. Okay, we're going to see if you can figure it out.
I'm not going to figure it out. I've done 160
I'll
movies.
tell you, it's a movie that one of the ones Steve did.
I still don't know what it is.
There were spiders in it.
Camel spiders.
Boom.
I played both an American soldier shooting at myself when you flipped us to be the
That's right.
Afghan, which
That's
was great.
right.
I thought that was very creative. I thought that was a great use of extras. So.
And I don't know if you've seen it, but it worked.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So you both shot at and received.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
we're both sides of the war, which I thought was a very creative use of. I don't know if I sold being the Afghan, but
No one really looks at Afghans. They see the turbans and they see the
and they look away.
and they look and they say, "Well, there's a guy."
Well, I have not worked with Jim before, besides my diehard fandom of Haunting of Morella, which we'll get into in a sec.
Blu-ray coming up.
Are you
cool.
serious?
Boom.
Oh my gosh. See, I've had like my old DVD release that they did eons ago. That's
you
like
should see
really hard to come by
Blu-ray.
now.
The Blu-ray is astonishing.
I am
It's
so
good.
excited. I love that film. Your production value on that is just astonishing. It's beautiful.
I credit Gary Randall, the production designer.
Oh, it's a wonderful
Who's
film.
who's putting that one out?
Scorpion Releasing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they do a lot of good work.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Nice.
And you?
I'm
And
excited.
I interviewed Tracy Lords for this edition of Not of This Earth, and I was there to supervise your commentary, which
Oh, you were there.
meant nothing. I just sat there and watched you guys talk.
Yeah, I just
but-
worked with Tracy. She's in Arkansas Women's
Oh,
Prison
cool.
Massacre.
Well, that's funny because I just revisited the commentary to this, which is a lot of fun. And you were saying, why have we never worked together again?
Well, we did.
So I'm glad that it happened finally.
Yep.
That's cool.
And she's come. Have you seen her development as an actor too? I mean, because that was probably her first role, right?
Her first legitimate role.
Legitimate.
Right.
Yeah.
Her crossover role.
Her crossover role, yes. But
Oh my
she's
God, but tell the truth. She played a detective and she was like amazing on
she
Shark
did
and
a
Saw.
great job. She did a great job.
No, she got. I mean, she's she did that Excision movie where she
movie.
plays the mother. And I think she's
And
terrific.
she's phenomenal. She just kind of smolders.
She
off
does a great
screen in
job. Does a great job.
So I wanted to get
And she's hot too, which is always a plus.
That's right. Was there a lot of controversy when she actually joined that film for you guys, crossing over into Not of This Earth, or?
Nope. Here's what happened. I was sitting around Concord Lot, and we were watching Not of This Earth. And I called Roger Corman the next day, and I said, "Let's remake it." He says, "Well, go ahead and remake it." and we made a deal, and he left town. And I said, "Who am I going to get to star in this film for the Beverly Garland role?" And coincidentally, the controversy regarding Tracy being underage hit the papers. And I said, "There's my star." Okay, so
Nice.
I was like a detective trying to find her because she was ducking everybody at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a pretty good detective. I found her and convinced her to come out of hiding and do the show. And I gave her the script. I treated her, respectfully, and she did a nice job. In fact, she was nervous the first day, or first 2 days. And then when we finished the film, I still had like a day and a half left of shooting time. And I said, let's go back and revisit the scenes you did on the first day. And she did them with much more energy and excitement. And she's turned into a very fine actress.
When did Roger find out that you had cast her in his absence?
When he came back,
And was that a plus?
Was he cool
or?
with
he
it?
came back to lots of requests from the press
Wow.
thinking that he had done it all. So he, of course, took credit and
Moved on.
and that was that. But I made, I got me a house out of that, which I call the House of Lords.
And the bet was that you could make it in a shorter time period than Roger did. Correct?
That's right.
Is that
That's
story?
Oh, that's funny.
That's funny.
I want to start because I imagine were you a monster kid, big monster kid growing up, or?
I think every kid was a monster
Yeah.
kid. Sometimes you grow out of it.
Yeah.
I unfortunately did not. But I read comics. I read the horror comics. I got those little cards with the monsters on them. And wow, I went to the movies and I went to the monster movies, and I also watched them on television. A lot of kids grow out when they hit, 14. They say, "Hey, chicks." And I said, "Hey, chicks," but monsters are still going to be there. And if you've seen any of my movies, it's "Hey, chicks."
Yes.
And
Right.
then
The
some
little
monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great combo of both.
And what
In all
gave you?
your
I
movies.
mean, what made you? Did you know anyone out here when you moved out here, or was it just like a wing and a prayer?
Because you're from New York originally, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
I moved out here thinking, well, I'll just be a director out in L.A., but there's no director want ads in the L.A. Times.
Yeah, no one really tells you how to do it here.
And that's what happened. I said, okay, well, I'm going to have to start from the bottom again because I was directing commercials in New York. And I started from the bottom again and worked my way up.
Was the first job with Roger out here?
No, I worked with Herbert B. Leonard, who had produced Rin Tin Tin.
Oh.
And he also had produced a lot of, and helped Sam Katzman a lot. And he was a kind of a gruff guy, but he is also responsible for Route 66. He's dead now, but he was a good guy, and I worked for him for a while, and I did a pilot for him in Atlanta. And coincidentally, with me showing up, there was a lot of obscene phone calls to girls at a local college. And, I had nothing to do with it, but the 20th Century Fox said, get rid of that guy. He could be the culprit. And Herbert Leonard felt bad about it because he didn't think I was the responsible party. And so he put me on a first-class plane back to L.A., fired me, but put me on a first-class plane. And in first class, I met somebody who knew Roger Corman.
Wow.
And I figured that's luck.
Mm-hmm.
But was it somebody who had worked with him, or was just
it was a woman whose husband had worked with him, who was a very good producer himself, and they were friends with the Cormans. So she got me an interview with him. And the day I walked in, the advertising director had quit 2 days before, and Roger saw all my stuff and said, "Can you start Monday?"
Wow.
So I took the job.
And what was the gig initially?
Creating posters and newspaper ads and stuff for him, for his pictures.
Do you remember what the first ones were when you first got there?
There are a lot of good ones. Galaxy of Terror.
Oh, yeah.
The Private Eyes with Tim Conway and Don Knotts. Lots of Humanoids from the Deep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a great cover.
Yeah, it was a good
nicely done.
with the eyes and everything.
Yeah.
So were you ever in the trailer room like everyone? I know so many
here's
people
what
go
happened.
through
Here's
there.
how I got in the trailer room. He got a film from a couple of producers called Island of the Fishmen. And
That's sold.
it was this kind of set Jules Verne kind of show set in the 1880s.
A little Lovecrafty in there. Well, predates Lovecraft.
But it had Joseph Cotton, who was looked like he was dead. And so he says, Jim, we're going to have to change the title here. I would like to call this Something Waits in the Dark. Okay, I said, okay, Roger, but there's so many slasher movies out there right now. A show like that might get lost. He said, Something Waits in the Dark. I said, certainly. What am I going to do? So Something Waits in the Dark did a poster, very much like Humanoids, because that had been a big success for him. And he said, just do the Humanoids ad again, different.
Nice.
And I did. And it went out in a test market and completely failed. And he called me and he said, what happened? I said, well, do you remember our talk? I said, slasher films are such a glut on the market. People aren't going to see them as much. So he says, well, what can you do? So I said, I'd like to call it Screamers because Scanners had just come out.
Huh.
He said, well, okay, here's a little bit more money. Do a new poster and a new trailer. And I said, okay, I want to get to direct something. And so I did it. I changed. I had this record when I was a kid, this horror record where a guy was turned inside out. And I said, I always want to see that. So I did this poster of a guy being turned inside out. And I said, beware. You will actually see a man turned inside out. And worse, he's still alive. Okay? Not in the movie.
Wow.
Okay? And just before Rob Bottin, who was going to go break all rules with The Thing, he hadn't hit the stride yet. And I said, Rob, can you turn a man inside out? He said, sure. And the Galaxy of Terror sets were still up at Corman's lot. Okay? They hadn't been torn down. Roger thought they were too good to tear down. So on a Sunday, I hired a hot babe, went down to the lot with Rob Bottin, hot babe, and shot on the Galaxy of Terror sets. And I have her running around in a bikini with a man who's been turned inside out, ostensibly, grabs her lapel and pulls off her. outfit, and she's in a black bikini, and she's running around from an inside-out man on these incredible sci-fi sets. Cut it together and made a new trailer for Screamers that didn't feature one frame of footage from Island of the Fish. Okay.
Was there an uproar?
Well,
when people went to see Island of the Fishman, where they were like, "Where's the half inside out dude?"
So now they're running these commercials in Atlanta at another test market, and all week you'll see a man turned inside out, hot babe running around being mauled by an inside out man. Roger didn't even bother. He was so disgusted with the film, he didn't even bother to look at the trailer.
Oh, wow.
So Friday comes along, and as I'm leaving, he says, hopefully we'll do better with, Screamers. Saturday morning, 7 a.m., my phone rings. And it's Roger at 7 a.m. I said, I'm in trouble. I'm fired. Something's wrong. And he tells me that they rioted at the Atlanta drive-ins. Tore out speakers, almost lynched a manager at one of the drive-ins. And he said, what was in that ad? And I explained what I did. And I thought the next two words were going to be, you're fired. But he says, congratulations. You turned the film around. It's a success. People came.
That's incredible. People
came to the theater. And he said, is any of that footage in the movie? I said, no. He says, get down to the studio right now. We're going to have to put it in the movie. So we ran all the footage. And at the beginning of Reel 4, this guy's running around an 1880 plantation somewhere. It looks like an 1880 plantation. And he's running around, he's like going, Laura, Laura, Laura. And he's opening doors. He's hysterical trying to find Laura. And at one point he opens a door and we cut to all the footage I shot.
Oh, that's great.
And in between on this footage, they're cutting back to his eyes staring from another part of the picture.
Wow.
And then he sees all this and then closes the door and goes, Laura!
The door was inconsequential to Laura.
We just wanted to find a place to put it.
Wow.
That's
and
amazing.
He called back all 30 prints of the movie. Did a new negative cut of the first 5 minutes of that reel, and hand cut it into all 30 prints.
Wow.
I have to find this movie.
See,
I know.
That's the kind of story that for me was missing from the Corman documentary that they made, because they had a lot of people early on whose careers he made, but it didn't have a lot of those stories where it really shows how he thought about the film industry and what he was willing to do.
Well, here's what goes down now. All 30 prints of this movie are playing around, and it's doing relatively well under the title Screamers, and the people are getting their inside out man. Mm-hmm. It goes to video, and they just they go over with the original negative to Embassy and make a new version of the film to tape without that footage.
Oh
no.
And it sold all right, but that footage was lost.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So it's not on the actual print now.
It's not on any print. However, they just released the film on Blu-ray, and somebody found one of the commercials.
Oh, cool.
So that's also on the Blu-ray. And the Blu-ray, you can see, I think it was the trailer. I put a lot of that footage into the trailer. So
the Screamers will live a little bit.
They sent it to me, and I said, wow, there's the stuff I shot, partially anyway, because it was off an old 35 print of the show.
Wow.
And am I hogging the mic?
No, this is what we do.
This is what we're here for.
That's one of my favorite stories I've ever heard on the show, to be honest. Yeah. I think it's fascinating. Did that directly give him confidence to let you direct a movie like Chopping Mall?
No. I in 1983, I left Corman's to do a movie called Lost Empire.
Uh-huh.
And I never thought I'd have another chance to direct another movie, so I put everything I loved into this movie. And I shot it on his lot, on his sets, with his production designer. And it won a couple of drive-in awards. And
It's out on Blu-ray now. Like came out last year, didn't it?
It came out on. It's coming out on Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
But it's on DVD. You can get it on Amazon, and it did very well. It went into 4 repressings on Amazon, which I thought was nice. And it was a new widescreen restoration because I shot it, 2.35 rather than. And we found the original neg. We did a whole restoration, and now, when I had finished that film, I went back to work for Corman. And his wife comes up to me and she says, Vestron wants a movie about a killer in a mall. And that blossomed into Chopping Mall. And so that's how that came along.
At what point in the writing did you know it was going to be robots instead of
From the beginning.
Oh, okay.
I saw this movie when I was a kid called Gog. You know that.
I know Gog.
Okay. What's Gog? Bekah, talk.
If I remember correctly, Gog was like a half humanoid man. He was partially ape, correct?
Wrong.
No. Okay, now I have to look at. I'm thinking of Trog.
This is the horror expert you brought me? Come on.
I was thinking of Trog. I have not seen Gog.
Okay, Gog. Ivan Tors, 1954. It is about a underground laboratory in, I believe, New Mexico. And Gog is a robot. And his brother, Magog, is another robot. And in this film, a computer runs the entire government facility. Okay? And they've got all these great ways to kill people in this facility.
Okay, I have pictures of Gog right here.
All right.
Yes.
He's like an 8-armed beast.
Look at that robot.
Yeah. Same, especially the base, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
He is not a Trog. He is a Gog.
Okay.
Pass that over here, girl.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, so Gog was my inspiration for Chopping Mall. I had a writing partner named Steve Mitchell, who's a really great guy. I saw him yesterday. It's still going strong. And Steve and I said, okay, let's take Gog and take it up rather than down. So we figured out, okay, a mall's got a bunch of stories, and this is a giant mall. We use the Galleria here in Sherman Oaks, which is long gone, but
Which is sad. Because
yes.
I got to tell you, when I first came to Los Angeles like 5 years ago, I made a list of like the sites I wanted to see around. I wanted to go visit Maya Daren's house. I wanted to go visit Darby Crash's house. And I wanted to visit the mall where Chopping Mall was shot. And I was
Fast Times at Ridgemont High, right?
Fast Times, I think Commando was shot.
Oh, yeah. When he
I
crashes
was
in.
so pissed off when I got there, and it was like an open air mall with a whole bunch of like schnazzy like chain restaurants, and that's it. It was so annoying. It's
gone.
So,
but it was good to shoot that movie.
Did you write knowing where you were going to shoot, or you just had to kind of write with a generic mall?
We wanted to use the one in the Beverly Center.
Oh, well.
In fact,
that would have cost a fortune, probably.
yeah.
The outside of Beverly Center was used for the
With the
exteriors.
Okay, where the lightning hits.
Yes.
Huh.
And but we used the Galleria here, and it was a lot of fun to do.
So it was still open during the day, and then you guys got it at nights? Or?
We rented a store that was closed and put all our goods in that store, and then we show up around 8 o'clock at night, get all the film and stuff ready to go inside the store, and as soon as the store was closed at 9, we ran out into the hallway and started filming till I believe it was 8 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. You guys ask him what he wore to direct that film.
I don't need to ask. I think you did good.
I ain't trying to do your job for you, nothing, but hey.
You have the inside running.
No, I was wearing a kimono and slippers.
Every day?
Every night.
Wow. What was the inspiration behind that?
I felt like I was in my big bedroom. I felt like I was in my big bedroom, and I wanted to kind of like enjoy myself because it was my second movie.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was a lot of fun owning the mall every night. And
ask him if he hurt himself on that set.
Oh, see, this is all the story she knows because she's my personal assistant.
Yeah.
I did hurt myself. There's a scene where a guy falls off a 3rd-story ledge.
Yeah.
And crashes to the floor and dies. And we had a stuntman ready to take that fall and, flailing. And I looked down and I said, man, I'd like to try that.
In a kimono.
In my kimono. I said, I'd like
God.
to try that. And I said, I went up to the 3rd floor and looked down. I said, no fucking way am I going to do that. But I talked to the stunt coordinator. I said, geez, what do you about the 2nd level? Do you think I could try it from the 2nd level? He says, if you want. So I went down to the second level. It didn't look so dangerous from the second level down to the first. So I flew off the thing and I hit the airbag, and I kind of fell and hurt my rib for a couple of days because I think I broke a rib. But I continued directing.
Wow.
But it was, it was like a cool thing to do. It was in my second film, and there's a big airbag, and I said, I'm going to take that jump.
I also met Kelly Maroney once, and she said something about that she wasn't going to do the snakes and the tarantula scene unless you did it or something like that.
Yeah, well, I have this motto.
Uh-huh.
If I won't do it, I'm not going to ask any other actor to do it.
That's great.
Okay? Which doesn't apply to body burns and things like that. The stuntmen do. But if I'm asking a real actor to do something, I'll do it first. And if I don't want to do it, I won't ask them to do it. Anyway, this guy had brought snakes, tarantulas, and scorpions.
Oh, God.
Okay? And
nightmare.
And I said, okay, just give me a handful of snakes. And I was holding the snakes and having a good old time.
Were they friendly snakes at least?
Yeah, they didn't bite.
Okay.
And then I said, give me some of those tarantulas. And they put tarantulas over me. And she's standing right here. Maroney is standing right over here. I said, okay, there you go. Let me see those scorpions. And when they put one of those scorpions on me, I was so freaked out. I said, okay, no scorpions.
That's how I would be. I could handle the snakes and spiders, but as soon as the scorpions came out, I'd be like, okay, this is a bit too much, guys.
No scorpions. But that was fun. I had a lot of fun, worked with Kelly. And I did a lot of movies with Kelly after that.
Uh-huh.
But your next film was quite possibly one of my favorite from my childhood.
You can't skip that fast into Chopping Mall. You can't leave Chopping Mall that soon.
Oh, damn.
We're fuck the fuchsia.
Okay.
That's Friday.
She killed beef. He killed beef first.
I know, but
beef is first to die
I
in
don't
this
get
movie.
to Deathstalker too soon, I'm going to have an aneurysm.
Okay. Take it easy.
A lot of stories behind that film.
Okay.
People are not talking, by the way.
Okay.
Did you inherit a lot of the Corman regulars for that? Like I know Paul Bartel and Dick Miller.
Julie Corman brought in both of them.
Uh-huh.
At my insistence, I said, "Can you get Paul Bartel?" And she said, "I can get Paul and Mary." I said, "Get him." I said, "Can you get Dick Miller?" Get him. Okay.
Playing Paisley again.
Walter
Paisley
Paisley.
again.
Because I figured, okay, it's Roger's. It's my first real movie for Roger. I'm gonna go to town, and I did. I got Dick Miller, who hated me that night, and never worked with me again. But I still love him. Don't get me wrong.
Why did he hate you? He seems like
he thought I was bossing him around. He thought I was bossing him around. He said,
like you're the
Jim Wynorski bossing people around on it.
I'm not taking commands from somebody in a kimono.
Anyway, so I worked also in that movie is Angus Scrimm in a small role.
Oh, I just watched it again this morning. I didn't even see it. Where was he?
He's one of the people that stands up in the crowd when they're talking at the start of the movie.
Oh, wow.
And he's billed as Rory Guy, which is his real name. So he played one of the
Weird.
guys.
I didn't even pick it.
That's
wow.
Cool. What about Barbara Crampton? Who, by the way,
Barbara Crampton. And I had a rocky beginning because, I demanded that she do some nudity.
Pop a top. She popped her top. Yeah, right at
and
camera.
Her agent was like, "No, she's not going to do that." I said, "Well, then she's not going to be in the movie." I gotta have 2 sets of boobs in this.
Is that like a quota that you still?
Yeah,
it's upped a little bit today.
Yeah, it's upped a little bit, but still in all. Anyway, so we went back and forth. Finally, she agreed. And then I had Deborah Blay set for the brunette, who was in Beach Girls, and she was another handful. So I finally just fired her and hired Carrie Emerson instead.
Everyone's really good in it, though. It's really stands. All their performances and the chemistry between them is really strong.
I had a good time.
And I like all your references with the posters.
Yeah.
All the Corman posters and the Peck and Pa's Sporting Goods.
How did you,
Roger's Little Shop of Pets.
How did you craft the robots? Because they seem
amazing.
so in depth and high tech.
I had been okay, here's another great backstory a little bit. When I first got out here, I was writing for Fangoria.
I know that magazine.
And I was making up articles. Okay.
What?
I wrote a review of The Shining before it came out, and I never saw the movie.
Chris, I hope you're listening, man. We need to get an interview about this.
And I interviewed people in the industry like Chris Wallace, Robert Short, and I never interviewed them.
Okay,
This is the greatest moment of radio I've ever heard.
I own every issue because I have a staff collection. I got to go back and find them.
The one
Like
with
1980? About
there's
1980?
one with Lucio Fulci's zombie.
That's number 8.
Oh, yeah.
Number
I remember
8.
that.
Okay, we'll get that one and open it up. You'll see. I think my Shining review is in there.
I want to see that sign.
It got me in trouble.
I'm gonna recreate
so they knew
this.
they found out.
They found out, and they said, "You're never working in this town again."
Wow.
And I said, "Too bad. I'm already directing this. So
Oh my
fuck you."
gosh. Okay, guys, I will have
I just
this
want to
by
know, did
next
you like
week.
it? Was it a favorable
Yeah,
review of The
when-
Shining or a negative?
It was not a negative review.
Okay.
And that's such a weird one because there's so much kind of batshit crazy stuff in it. I'm anxious to see like what you thought it was going to be before you actually saw it.
I just made it up.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
But I did interview Robert Short. Okay, but I really didn't. Okay, and after they said you're never running for us again, I got a call from Robert Short, and he said thanks for the great interview. Okay, and I became friends with Robert before I did Chopping Mall. So when Chopping Mall was getting up and running, we went to Robert. And I said, will you design these robots for me?
Wow.
And he designed them and built them, and the rest is history. But he did a great job. One was a shell, one was controlled by wires, and one was a complete autonomous thing that you controlled from a remote control box. So in the scenes where you see two of them moving, there's wires leading from one, and the other one's remote controlled.
What
Do any of them
happened to
exist?
him?
Yeah.
I always figured they'd end up in like Bob's basement or something.
Bob sold the Prime one to a collector who is like Chopping Mall nuts. He lives in Long Island, and he's got everything from Chopping Mall.
Wow.
Scripts, poster, key art, original drawn key art, everything. And the other one that was connected to wires was left on around the Corman lot for 10 years and disintegrated. And the shell was blown up
In the paint store?
in the paint store.
See, I also think the way they move is also really funny. I think that scene where it gets in the elevator in the middle of a chase scene and has to do like an awkward 3-point turn. I felt like that was the origins of some of that Austin Power humor that came so much later. You know, it's really funny film.
That's the way it had to be done. Because nothing was remote controlled. It was like it's like people parking a car.
Did it really go up the escalator, or was that?
No,
BS?
it couldn't fit on the escalator. So those escalator shots are a guy bending down with the top of the robot on top of him.
Wow, it's really
Yeah,
flawless.
it's effective.
And that was a theatrical, right? Yes. I mean, we all grew up with it on
There's
VHS.
another great story. It was originally called Killbots.
Right.
Killbots, that's right.
And we tested in Arizona. Nobody came. Nobody. It was crickets in the theater. Roger pulled back 12 prints. He had made up 12 prints over, just for the course of this one test screening. And he says, I don't understand. This film is a good film. Let's go screen it again, see if there's something wrong with it. And we're watching the movie, and everybody's enjoying it. And the guy's janitor's changing light bulbs in the theater, and he's watching it too in this small shoebox theater. And lights come up, and he's I don't understand this. And it's a good film, and I don't understand why people aren't responding. And the guy who changes the light bulbs turned around and he says, "Why don't you just call it Chopping Mall?"
Wow.
And Roger and I looked at each other, and I said, "We're half off. It's just the beginning." And he says, "Where shopping costs you an arm and a leg."
Wow.
And
So you're just ripping with the caretaker.
I ran into my office, did up a whole new ad campaign instantly, and we went out again the following week where all they did was cut in Chopping Mall where the Killbots were, and we tested again in another part of Arizona. I think we went to Tucson this time. Filled the theater.
Wow.
So, and I learned a big lesson that day that Roger has kind of taught me, that is that, it's the perception of the audience of what they're going to. And Killbots they did not want to see, but Chopping Mall was something everybody wanted to see. And it was the same movie.
Wow.
Should ask about the score because I don't even know if you know about this.
Yeah, I mean,
I do know about it. It's
probably
the worst record cover. Come on.
Sorry, Waxworks.
Well, especially when Chopping Mall itself has one of the best covers.
Yeah, that's true.
Design covers.
Yeah, that's like awful. That's awful. I haven't seen it yet. I have a copy waiting for me this weekend at Dark Delicacies.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. And I'm just curious, like, how do you feel about the fact that, you know, it's always been kind of a cult favorite film.
What's that?
It's always been a cult favorite film, but now, like, the popularity to get a soundtrack version of it coming out now.
We had a CD come out about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And they just decided to do a soundtrack album. And I said, fine, great. And
how'd you just get the composer for the film in the first place?
Good friend of mine for many years. And when a chance came to do,
it's hot pink.
When the chance came to do a score,
awesome.
I gave him the gig, and he's been doing scores ever since.
Yeah, no, it is really great on its own. It's become a big thing, you know, these scores coming back out again now.
Yeah, horror vinyl all of a sudden there's just a resurgence for it. So,
all right, she's chomping at the bit to ask you about Morella.
Before we go on, I have to ask because a couple of years ago we started getting all these press releases about how there was going to be a Chopping Hall remake, and Rob Hall had the rights, and we got all excited.
Him!
Fuck
him!
I
a
wanted
son
to know
of a
what
bitch!
happened to it because we were all so excited.
I hope he
about
keeled
it.
over. I hope he keeled over. First of all, I still, with Steve Mitchell, own a section of rights on that picture. Okay? So if Roger makes a deal, it's money in the bank. Okay? But I don't think he ever made a deal. I think he kind of like said, okay, do something, but nothing ever came of it.
Oh.
And they were going to take the robots out.
Yeah.
Really?
I heard they were going to make it into a slasher movie, which
They're going to make it. They were going to make
that would
it.
have killed me.
They're
No.
just buying the
And I
title.
said, people aren't going to respond to that at all. You know, I figured, okay, CGI robots in a mall, maybe that would work. But to do ghosts,
called Chopping Mall?
Screw that.
Yeah,
Screw
that's
that.
weird.
Yeah. Ghost don't chop.
I'm glad it died on the vine.
And then, before she gets to Morella, have you directed the most Corman produced films of any director, do you think?
I don't know.
Because I can't think of many people.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've done a lot.
Yeah.
I've done a lot. And I'm still doing it. I just finished Cobra Gator.
Cobra Gator.
Cobra Gator.
Michael Madsen?
Michael Madsen.
I saw
Nice.
photos of those guys. Of you guys in Hawaii or somewhere?
I was in Florida for that.
Florida. Okay.
But Cindy and I went to Hawaii, Kauai, to do Piranaconda.
That's right.
And that was for Corman.
Yeah, with Michael Madsen again.
Michael Madsen again.
As a scientist.
And Cindy was his
What was I? His grad student assistant.
grad student. Really?
Right.
Oh, wow. So you're the assistant all
What was
around
my
here.
name? Margaret?
Okay. It was. She did a great
Dead
job.
before the credits roll.
Dead before the credits.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, Morella it up.
No, I was getting to. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My childhood was kind of dominated by Beastmaster and
yeah.
Deathstalker.
I did Beastmaster. I wrote Beastmaster 2.
And
you
you
did?
also directed Deathstalker too.
Yes, I
which
did.
has got me really excited. So I
Lots
need
of stories there.
I need
Was the
some
first one Jack
Beastmaster
Hill,
and
or-
Deathstalker stories.
First one was directed by first Deathstalker was somebody else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Jack Hill directed Sorceress.
I'll look it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry.
I want to say Jimmy something, but I might be wrong.
First Deathstalker. Hold on. Tell us a good story
All
about
right.
it.
Well,
How did you get on that one?
Roger had really liked Chopping Mall.
Yeah.
Okay, and he was at the he was on the verge of finishing his contract with the people in Buenos Aires who had did first Deathstalker, Barbarian Queen. There was one called something or other.
So all these post-Conan kind
Yes.
The first Deathstalker was directed by James Saberdalotti. Did I even?
No, Jim Spartalotti.
Okay. Sorry. There's
Jim
a lot of letters there.
Nice guy. Okay. And that was a real kind of serious film that had something going for it. And when I was at the end, I was at the tail end, and I was doing Deathstalker 2. And the script stunk. It just stunk. Okay. And I went down there with my buddy, John Terleski, who had appeared in Chopping Mall. And I went down with a girlfriend, Tony Naples, who played Sultana. And I went down there with Monique Gabrielle, who was a younger, talented actress who I'd seen in Bachelor Party. And I thought and I spoke to her a lot on the phone, and I was saying, this is a hottie, okay? And I think she can do two different kind of people. And the great thing about that is that down there they have very limited actors. And I said, if this girl can play two different parts, and she did, it's going to be great. So we went down there, and John and I literally threw the script in the garbage. And we just started making up scenes. And we'd write at night and then shoot during the day. And we were putting every gag we knew in the film. I was making It Happened One Night. The Conan version of It Happened One Night.
Wow.
And if you watch that film, that's exactly what
I had to go back and watch it again to see the comparison.
If you watch It Happen One Night and then watch Deathstalker 2, it's the same setup. One guy has to take some girl somewhere, okay? And as he does, he falls in love with her, okay?
All right.
That's It Happened One Night. It's Frank Capra. It's a classic.
Yeah.
And I said, we're doing It Happened One Night with Looney Tunes gags everywhere along the line. I put Abbott Costello routines in. I put anything I wanted to. The people in Argentina who are producing the film were sort of put out by the whole thing because they had the script that they had translated the script that was originally written. And I said, we're throwing that out. We're throwing that out. And then I called Roger and I said, please send down a huge lady wrestler. And
I want to be on that phone call.
And he did. And we shot this whole lady wrestling scene that wasn't in the script. Okay. And finally I was doing all these chase scenes and all this other stuff that wasn't prescribed. And finally they called Roger and they said, you have to get down here. This guy's operating totally out of control. And Roger and his family came down, and we went to the editing room. And they had a horrible editor, but she still put stuff together. And he looked at the stuff. He says, this is marvelous. Okay?
Wow. Great.
Let him alone. Okay? And so Deathstalker 2 is not anywhere close to Deathstalker 1. It's a kind of a rogue helping a girl get back to where she has to be, which is what It Happened One Night is. And along the way, there's a lot of fun, a lot of gags, and a lot of anything I wanted to do.
That's what's fun about a lot of the ones you have done sequels to. Seem to you've brought your humor to it and haven't tried to replicate.
Yeah,
like
Return to
Swamp Thing is a very different movie, and it's a lot more fun. The first one's kind of, it kind of plods along.
It's a little serious.
It had to be done that way because it was a start. You have to do the first one kind of serious.
Right.
When I got asked to do the second one, I said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do what Wes Craven did. They'll just say I'm copying him.
Yeah.
So I hated the suit from the first one. I threw that out. I said, make a new suit. And we were supposed to go with Tanya Roberts, but she came in and, oh man, she was the bitch of the West. And I said, I am working with this babe. Even though she's pretty, she was just insane. I ended up working with her later in another thing that
caught up to you.
And I hate that film. So
I
do that. Anyway, so bottom line, we got Heather Locklear. She came down and then
first role, her first big role or not?
No, I think she did.
Okay.
She just come off T.J. Hooker and
yeah.
I was making T.J. Hooker gags. I was doing everything I could just to have some laughs. Okay, and that's how that film. There's a lot of stories associated with it, but it was a fun movie to make.
Yeah, I love that gag. I think it's in the trailer where he says he can't sleep with her because he's a plant, and she goes, "That's okay, I'm a vegetarian."
Exactly.
And it's genuinely funny. It's not like funny because it's bad, which is often the problem with B movies where people are laughing at them, but you're always kind of injecting humor. Even 976 Evil's funnier and moves along more than the first one does.
That the story behind that one is I was first time working for Cinetel, and I wanted to please them. The owner of the company, Paul Hertzberg, has been a good friend of mine for 25 years. He had a girlfriend at the time, and he wanted to put in the lead. And I said, okay, sure. She couldn't act very much well, but she's very pretty, and I put her in the movie. And it was a interesting script, but they had this big scene where one of the girls is pulled into a Pac-Man game. and chased by Pac-Man and gobbled up. And they budgeted that out. It was going to cost $40,000 to $50,000 just to shoot that 2 minutes of footage. And they didn't want to spend it. And I didn't want to spend it because I think, it's going to be very expensive, a lot of green screen. And it's not going to be exciting. Plus, you have to pay Pac-Man some money.
Right.
So I was like, they said, well, what can you do to replace it? So I'm sleeping one morning, and I wake up, and I go back to bed, and I'm in It's a Wonderful Life. And I'm there with Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed and Zuzu, and it's the end of the movie, and everybody's singing Old Lang Syne. I said, this is great, okay? I'm in It's a Wonderful Life. And suddenly everybody turns around and there's zombies. And it becomes Night of the Living Dead. And I'm it's a dream. I'm scared. I'm backing off from all the zombies, and Zuzu's got the big trowel. And I wake up in a sweat. And I said, geez, I just had a public domain dream. 2 films in the public domain, and I combined them. And
that's the most fun part, too.
I wrote it down, and I wrote the script before I went into work that day. And I said, here, that's what I want to do. And they looked at it. They said, this is insane. I said, yes, it is. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. So I went out. We recreated the set from It's a Wonderful Life. This side was It's a Wonderful Life. The flip side of the set was not Dawn of the Dead, but Night of the Living Dead. And I went out and started to try to cast people that looked like they were in, like Uncle Billy and everything from It's a Wonderful Life. And we used footage from both films to kind of sell the whole deal.
That's really cool.
Pretty amazing.
Wow.
Now, I wanted to ask you, but you use Jay Andrews sometimes when you direct, and I remember hearing, I think I asked Steve at the time, I didn't know if you chose based on how much you liked your movies or if it was just purely a marketplace thing.
I do too many films. I just want to change my name occasionally. Everybody it's found out always. They always find out. It's my first initial, and my middle name is Andrew.
Uh-huh. And what's the most films you've made in 1 year? I mean,
6.
6 films. And that's a mixture of all types of movies.
I don't remember what I did, but I did 6 films.
And how many of those? So is it a market thing, though? Like when people are trying to sell a film, if your name was on too many films, it just loses interest, value?
Yeah, like I just bought a Jim Wynorski film.
Right.
Well, I'll buy a Jay Andrews film, and I'll buy a Tom Papadopoulos film, and I'll buy what else did I? Who else do I use?
H.R. Blueberry.
H.R. Blueberry.
Jamie Wagner.
I never used Jamie Wagner.
Oh, it says that you
That's a lie.
Cry of the Winged Serpent. You're wrong, IMDb.
Damn you. I do. Interesting. It was Gargoyle because, Steve, when I first moved here, I think it was before I was in Camel Spider, was like the first couple weeks I moved here, right? But he sat me down and showed me Gargoyle, and that was one of those movies that it was very ambitious and it felt like an A movie. And I don't know where it was filmed. It couldn't have been
Romania.
Okay.
And Transylvania.
But it really is. It's a really good film. If people should seek that one out, it doesn't feel...
It's on Netflix streaming.
Oh, it is? No? What's it? Gargoyle Wings of something?
Just punch in my name. It'll show up.
But it's different. What's it like? Because we've had Charlie Band on before, and people who have worked in Romania and other places. What are the realities of shooting with a foreign crew?
They're good.
Yeah.
They're good. Everybody's got guns. And... craft service sucks. Here we go.
Well, tell them about the car chase scene. How are those Romanians with the car chase?
There's a car chase scene in Gargoyles. And they hired a stunt guy to do the car chase. And down a side of a mountain with no fencing or anything. And he gets out there with his daughter. And he gets car sick.
Awesome.
And he's driving the car like grandma, going 20 miles an hour. I said, what the hell is this guy doing? He's a stuntman. He's got this great video of him, driving a car through a fiery bale of hay. But I guess it was only going 10 miles per hour when he did it. So this guy he gets car sick. So I said, give me that car. And I think we put a dummy or something in the car, and I did the car stunts, which I got reamed for from Cinetel because they said, you can't do that. If you'd gone over the side of that hill, we'd all be in trouble. I said, okay, well, it's done already. And that's how that came to be. but otherwise, the crew was great.
Huh.
I enjoyed the crew.
And was that the first time you'd done, like, I know the gargoyles, like partially claymation, like Harryhouse, or?
I told the guys doing CGI, I'd make it look like Harryhouse.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
Now, where are most of your films shot now? I mean, I assume it's not international anymore, or is it?
You know, I've gone all over the place to make movies. I've done a lot in LA. I've done some in Florida. I've done some, where have we gone? Hawaii. I shot in the Philippines. I shot in, where else? I don't know. Europe.
Wow.
What's the hardest shoot you've had? Like, just purely technically difficult to get through?
Technically difficult.
Piranaconda
was one. My most unfavorite movie is, or the film that I hate the most is Vampirella. Because it was shot in Vegas in 110 degree heat.
Oh, wow.
With somebody who's trying to embezzle money and did. And with a Vampirella I didn't want. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Talisa Soto, but she wasn't Vampirella.
Right.
But she was handed to me and I said, okay. I should have said no. But it was a deal in place and I took it and did it. The great thing about the movie, though, was that I was working with Roger Daltrey from The Who. And every day at lunch, he got out his guitar, sitting on his on the trailer steps, and sing Who songs. Okay, so we got a little Who concert every
That's pretty amazing.
every day at lunch. And I said, "Oh, that sounds like." I said, "Oh, that sounds like The Who." And I said, "Oh yeah, it's him."
Wow. Now, in terms of the industry, like, is it now a necessity to make like 6 films a year because of the change? You know, since film and theatrical is pretty much gone, and the kind of,
I don't make 6 films a year. That was a.
Oh, okay.
I at the height of when I was working,
right.
6 films a year is tough.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I've done 2, maybe 3 this year. I think. I'll probably do 1 before the end of the year.
But is there? I mean, do you feel a big difference in the industry since
it's changing all the time?
Yeah. And does it bother you that these films don't go theatrical anymore?
No, because theatrical didn't do well this summer. You saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy, and then everything fell short. And rightly so. Hollywood doesn't know how to make a decent movie anymore. I think they make some good ones, but they make a lot of crap. And Netflix, Hulu, Vudu, they're all taking up the slack. And so there's room out there to make a bunch of money.
Is that where you're finding the biggest bang for the buck with your films now, is on like the VOD platforms?
Well, I'm making movies for less, but I have the wherewithal on how to do it. Steve is a genius producer.
I agree.
He's a genius producer, and our team of people can make these things for a lot less than people think. As long as you go to different places and go and shoot different things, you can make a good movie without spending a lot of money. And Steve's a genius at it. Cindy, on the other hand, just spends money like a drunken sailor.
That is absolutely untrue.
She's never drunk.
I'm never drunk.
Cindy,
I've been sober for 3.5 years.
Were you interviewed for Papadopoulos, or were you not on that shoot?
No, that's before my time, actually.
Which is a
I met Cindy several years ago. I got asked to be in American Pie 7 as an actor.
Wait, they're still making American Pie films?
Well, the direct-to-video one. There's like 4 of them.
Anyway, I made American Pie 7.
Yes.
Yeah. And my co-star in the scenes that I was in was Cindy Lucas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you were doing a favor for John Putch.
Yes.
Right? And it was American Pie Presents the Book of Love. It was the last one before the reunion one, which did go theatrical, right? The last one that just came out.
So did Craig Perry produce it?
Yeah,
Craig, if you're listening, one of our listeners is he did.
No, it was
Michael Elliott.
Right, Mike Elliott was the producer. And Jim was in a couple of my scenes. And when I first saw Jim, it was in the makeup trailer. And he looked so scary. He was in... Don't answer that. You're in the middle of an interview.
Hold on.
Jim's getting phone calls.
If it's Roger.
Steve, how are you? I'm good. I'm on the radio right now, and I picked up your phone because it was you. How you doing?
Is it Steve Mitchell?
I'm talking about Chopping Mall on the radio.
It's the writer. So right now, the writer of Chopping Mall has just called.
How you doing? What's the question?
Is he listening?
Just thank him for us.
Yes, Tom Barker.
We're waiting for our scoop.
Cutting edge, yeah.
There's a sequel.
Scoop. What's happening?
Call you when it's done.
Well, green light the sequel.
I said nice things about you. Okay? All right. And some crappy things, too. So, all right. I'll call you later. All right.
That's coincidental.
I will say he's done that in the middle of a take, too. He answers the phone.
We never asked if there's plans for a Blu-ray, because it seems like all the great 80s.
I can't talk about that right now.
Okay. Well, we'll just hope that it's
something in the work.
On Blu-ray.
Yeah.
There you go. Kevin Zager's. Our first question was
about Kevin Tenney?
No, Kevin Zager.
Oh, okay.
We
have a couple.
As usual, you skip ahead.
What's the question?
You're the one that always asks for questions from people, and then
we
Elric,
have some questions.
Yes, I did. Yes, I dated her.
Yes, he's guilty. Oh, yeah. Do you want to pull out a couple of those? Just because we had quite a few people on Facebook wanting to ask.
Stupid questions.
Yeah,
they were excited to talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, Christopher, I'm sure that's his real name. Would you ever make a sequel or a remake to Chopping Mall? I know we talked it before, but you would never
just watch the film again.
Watch the original one. Okay.
Why would I want to do that?
I don't know. Maybe you have a burning desire to play with robots again.
No, you know, if you watch, I did a film called Shockwave with robots, and that's kind of like my other answer to Chopping Mall, but it's doing. You can't do Chopping Mall today. Because, they could get out by using their cell phones. Okay?
Right, yeah.
That's true.
Too many outs.
Yeah.
But back then, there was no cell phones. They were trapped. And that was the Chopping Mall.
Unless there would be no cell reception. Duh.
Yeah, that's true.
You can use that.
Yeah, but people would question that at a mall.
Yeah.
But Cindy, the co-writer of the new Chopping Mall sequel,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Plus, it's a product of the 80s. It's a product of the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All the hair, all the music, all
Are
everything.
malls still quite the hip place to hang out as they used to be?
You guys are staring at me like I came up with a
question. Next question.
People love the movie. They want a sequel. Okay. Paula Hafley would like to know, I'd love to hear the story as to why Sorority House Massacre 2 is more of a sequel to Slumber Party Massacre than Sorority House Massacre, and why they reused footage from Slumber Party.
All right. First of all, it is not a sequel to anything. Roger was going with his wife, Julie, out of town, out of the country, okay? And there were sets left over on the lot from some movie, okay? But they were all empty. All the furniture that was rented was returned. And there was a basement, there was an attic, there was a house, but it was totally trashed. And I said, well, I can write a film on these sets. And I said, Julie, can I make a film next week? 7 days. She said, sure, but don't tell Roger.
Awesome.
So that week before we started, on Monday, Tuesday, and part of Wednesday, I wrote the script. It was like 84 pages. I was writing like 30 pages a day. And I was just making it up. I was going crazy, just making it up and having laughs while I was doing it. And I wrote it under the title Nighty Nightmare.
That's a good title.
It was shot under the title Jim Wynorski's House of Babes. Okay? That was on the actual clapper. And I cast it on the weekend after they had left. And it was like 10 people in it. Everybody just came in. Luckily, I met Peter Spellos, who played Orville Ketchum. And the rest of the girls came in. I said, you. And some of them I cast out of my phone. And we shot Monday through Sunday, 7 days straight. And it turned out great. And they started cutting it the following week. Roger and Julie came back, and Julie called me and said, how did it go? I said, fine. And then so Roger went down to the studio, and somebody said to him, he said, what happened to what's all this blood on this wall? I said, well, they said, that Wynorski came in and did that last week.
And made a movie.
And he said, how? He said, well, they made a movie last week. And then I got a call from Roger, and he said, Jim, what happened last week? And I said, well, I think you should ask Julie. And he said, no, I'm asking you. And I said, well, we made a movie last week. I made a movie last week, and Julie financed it. Oh, really? Can I see it? I said, well, better ask Julie. Okay. So Julie gave him the permission, and I drove down to the studio, and I showed him what they had cut. And he said, this is wonderful. I want you to do it again for me. Okay. And that's how Sorority House Massacre 2 and Hard to Die came to be. When you shoot a week, you don't have a lot of footage. Mm-hmm. And so I cut together a 3-minute segment that's used in both Hard to Die and Sorority House Massacre 2 from the original Slumber Party Massacre, because that was also a non-SAG film, and I wouldn't have to pay any royalties to those people.
Right.
And I had Peter Spellos as Orville Ketchum narrate it twice and make it sillier even in Hard to Die. And it was only there to make sure I had running time. I needed to hit at least 80 minutes. You got to go? She's bored. She's leaving. You leaving?
No, I'm just moving over.
Oh, okay. Did I spit?
You're looming.
Did I spit? Okay.
Jim likes to loom sometimes.
Okay. All right. I do loom. Like this.
He looms.
Okay. All right. So that's how that came to be. Is that question answered?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Right there.
Yeah, and I know. Oh,
go ahead.
Was that your year you did 6 movies?
Yes. I may have done 7. I don't remember. I was doing a lot of movies back then, fixing a lot of movies.
Uh-huh.
I fixed Demonoid. I fixed Raw Force. I fixed a lot of movies that was a thing called Trapped with Henry Silva. When companies began to realize that I could come in and re-edit and make a movie better. Mm-hmm. And sometimes go out and film something, like an opening or a closing or something that made the film better. My buddy Fred Olen-Ray does that too.
And you guys co-directed Dinosaur Island together?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Spielberg ripped you off, right? That's the...
No, we knew that was coming.
Oh, really? So it was made, but you were shooting before it came out?
We were shooting before it came out, but we knew it was coming out, so that's how we got the financing to do Dinosaur Island. Huh. That's it.
Any Twitter questions?
I think, one of them I think you've kind of answered, which was about somebody who called you.
Hey, we're almost done. It's 8:54.
Somebody called you the master of being able to cut from other films and interject them in your own narrative. But I think you're kind of answering that. But with this, with that, what about Ghoulies? Because we did have Charlie Band here. Was it Ghoulies 4?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, did you take that as a straight sequel, or did you just have much carte blanche? Did you have to play with that?
I didn't like what happened with Ghoulies. They kind of like all these little puppets, and I said, I can't work with puppets. I can't get any response out of them. Okay, so I hired 2 midgets to play 2 Ghoulies, and it was a story that had nothing really to do with Ghoulies, except that I wanted the guy from the original Ghoulies 1, Peter Lapis, to come back. I figured that makes it.
He's Jonathan in the original?
Yes.
Or, okay.
And he came back and played that part again in my version. And I think I used some stock footage of him,
doing his satanic rites.
He had the guy in the cloak and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I did on that one. And
was that for Full Moon, or who was that for?
That was for RCA Columbia.
Okay. So it wasn't for Band. Okay.
No. Band had sold the rights already.
Okay. Here's that. You have to ask a Haunting of Morella question before you end this.
Because
this is your film. You talk about it a lot.
I do talk about it a lot because I love it so much.
I haven't seen it.
I've been fascinated by it. So how did you convince Nicole Eggert to be in it to begin with, or was she just game from the start?
She was game, and she didn't want to do any nudity. And I said, okay, I'll get a body double for you. And that film was a lot of fun. I said, because that was the first time I said, I'm going to play this straight. I'm not going to go for laughs at all.
And it really does work. I mean, it really comes across as, of course, you've got like lesbian witch moments in there. But
why not?
They're needed. But I mean, the rest of it comes across as a very straight horror film.
I tried to make it that way. I didn't go into it saying I'm going to add my humorous touches because I just didn't feel that it warranted that.
Was it you who wanted to kind of, approach Poe, or was that one that was handed to you?
It was a case where I told Roger, I said, I'd like to do a Poe film, and I'd like to do it like you handled the Poe film. I wanted to shoot in widescreen, but he wouldn't let me. Wow. I wish he had now. I'm sure he wishes he had now, but he just said 4x3.
Now, did you shoot that one here in the States and do sets, or was there?
I shot that in Venice, California.
Wow.
And I shot it on the Fox Ranch.
Man, you have like streams running through and everything else.
That was shot at the Fox Ranch where they shot Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
The waterfall was built in a parking lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a really nice looking waterfall.
They would not let us put naked women in a waterfall. And there's no waterfall like that in LA anyway.
I think she's in her underwear, so.
Yeah. So she had just busted her leg or something, and she was, worried about her weight or whatever. Anyway, she did the scene. And that waterfall, it was freezing cold. It was across from the bus depot down in Venice. So all the bus drivers and the passengers were standing there watching two almost naked ladies do a lesbian scene in a parking lot across the street. And the wind was blowing. I said, if we don't get this soon, it's all going to come crashing down. But it was working. The pumps were taking the water up, and that little pond that they swim in was 1.5 feet of water. Okay, with visqueen, and it was a pump pumping that water up 2 stories, and it was dropping down, and it worked. It worked. I said, it won't work at night. I mean, it won't work in the daytime, but it'll work at night.
Yeah, it does, because it's a nighttime scene.
Night will hide the problems. And so it was supposed to be in the day. I said, we're making this night. And it was freezing. And we came down there, and the girls were very, chipper and ready to go. And we got it. So when the girl's swimming in the water, she's almost touching the bottom. But it was black water, so you couldn't tell how deep it was.
Now, I mentioned at the start of the show that I love this one just because the production values on it are just gorgeous. Like, it's a beautiful film. Could you talk a little bit about the production side of it?
I would like to just praise Gary Randall, who had done Transylvania Twist and that picture for me. And he was a genius production designer who went on to bigger and better things. And Morella, he said, I'll build a waterfall for you. I'll build a little town for you. All that whole town when they go in the daytime.
Yeah, because it's got like a town square setting and a big it was
all,
cross for burning in the center.
It was all forced perspective.
Wow.
You had to shoot it from a certain angle and move a little bit, not a lot. And he put dirt on the ground to make mud, and it just looked like somewhere else. But it was all in a parking lot in Venice, California. Wow. Except for there was a graveyard we shot over on the Fox sets.
Now, seeing that this was kind of Nicole Eggert's I'm an adult now, I can do what I want film, how was she like to work with?
She was sweet. I didn't have any problems with anybody on that set. It was good. The only thing I hate is this one matte painting at the beginning that's kind of wanky. And when I was looking at the Blu-ray, I said, let's darken that till you can hardly see it. Okay.
Well, I am thrilled. Blu-ray is coming out. I've been telling these guys about this film for a while, just because it's
I'll wait for the Blu-ray.
My favorite one of yours.
The Blu-ray looks astonishingly good, and they fixed up a lot of problems, and they really did a nice job fixing that film.
Excellent.
This weekend, you're signing at Dark Delicacies. Yes. Are you signing anything, or is it for something
except
specific?
checks?
Fair enough. And it's you and somebody else, right? From Transylvania Twist?
I don't know who's showing up.
Okay.
I'm going to show up. I'm going to sign some photos and sell some DVDs. And if you want to show up, please do. They're not expensive. And I'd love to meet anybody who's fans of Chopping Mall or any of my other pictures.
And also, did you ever watch Papadopoulos? Did you sit through it, or
sat through one screening? It's tough for me to watch.
Yeah, of course it is.
But I know it's funny.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't me, I'd be laughing my ass off.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, I mean, it follows you shooting in 3 days. So I want to plug that. I think it's probably on Netflix streaming if people want to see a different side of you while
I'm in it.
Yeah, Steve's in it.
Steve Goldenberg's in it.
And Lizard Man. Steve, do you want to give a quick Lizard Man plug for anyone who doesn't know?
It's a great movie.
Okay, there you go. What a show, man.
I think you can buy it somewhere.
Jim has a cameo on that. Actually, you're really good as an actor in Kevin's film. Was it Brain Dead? He shown that one time. You're playing the cop.
I think it's illegally broadcasting on YouTube now.
Okay, there you go.
Check it out.
Straight there. Any last things, Rob?
Nope.
Okay, cool. So Dark Dell Saturday.
Dark Delicacies on Saturday 2 to 4. Be there, be square. Thank you very much.
And what about Shark and Soul? When can we expect that?
Yeah, when does Shark and Soul Women's Prison Massacre?
There you go. That's coming out late October. Not coming out, but it will be done late October. It stars the lovely and talented, never so busty Cindy Lucas.
And Dominique Swain, don't forget.
Oh, Dominique Swain, wow.
Dominique Swain is in it.
And Tracy Lords is in it.
Dominique Swain plays my lesbian lover who busts us out of prison.
There you go. And we're talking bust. We mean bust. Okay?
Sounds
Woman
intense.
in prison. Are there actual sharks in prison?
Yes. No.
Okay.
No. But there's sharks out there near the prison.
Okay. Good enough. Fair
In
enough.
Arkansas?
Sharkensaw.
Sharkensaw.
Well, I want to
Got
thank
it.
Steve for obviously tricking you into coming to do the show by telling you it was a video, high-end CBS production.
That's why that just got me down here.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. So thanks for coming. We will talk to you guys next week.
Yes.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.